Hey people, this is part 2. Part 1 looked like this. It was about 28 minutes long. And I was reading some things here in the first book of Job, the oldest book in the Bible, maybe the world's oldest book, to help explain what this word Nephilim is when it gets down here, line 16. And this is the first place it come up where all the other writers went to it, meaning fell from heaven. The Nephilim. They should be 2 E's here. They don't understand how to read these marks. So it's in this first book of Job, and I had pulled it off and put this poem and yell at everything that's the same, the first line and the last line of each one of these. Not necessarily verses, they've got them split up here. But this is where that Nephilim is. And so I'm going to go back, but I'm going to read this last line of this poem. And you can see how it's different here. It's spelled a little different, and it has a different marking here, and a different marking here above this B, and a different marking here above this E. So if you watch the last movie, you could see how it makes a difference. And so with this mark under the Z, it means this reads Z-E-Z-E. And so it's A-D-Z-E-Z-E. And they're getting this from, Z-E is it or is. And they're getting this from E-Z-E, these. But the first Z goes over here and it's ads. Ads, things you see on the wall, the signs on the post, the ads. Adds these from dibber. Dibber is a little tool for planting, to poke a hole, or to dibber something is to make a hole by using something and jabbing at it, to dibber. And adds these from dibber, use, U-Z-E, Baba. And we figured out in that last movie that this is from India. It's talking all about Shiva through here. So we're going to go with the Indian translation of Baba, meaning father, respectful form of address of an older man, a holy man. So adds these from dibber, use Baba, who yammer, who said. And then a little line up above this N means I'm going to read this word and then come back with the N-I-T. And so this K in a final form with this marking is a T. But it's not the final letter, so I'm going to read it as a K the first time, and then a nit, N-I-T. And so N-B-N, nick, nicking it. And so nick, in the nick in it, nicks is the pants you used to put on your sons, the little short pants that was above the knees so they didn't wear the knees out, get them dirty, the nicks. And so been nicking it of nut it, and not your daughters, but of nut it. And that comes from the Egyptian, nut was the daughter, was the sky, nautic, that's all goes together. And also, the women was the feminine, the et, the writings. And been nicking it of nut it. And then it starts with A, so it reads backwards, and it's M-I-L-K, milk. And then you read the A, and then the M, the final M is an S when it's on the end. And so this little line above here, this hatch, lets you know to read it again as, the milk as. And so here's some top secret that nobody knows. These 2 dots above this S, they say when it's on the right, it reads as a SH, and on the left it's just a S. And they say when it's both up there, it's a SH, and that's just because they don't know. It only comes up when you read backwards. And this line here has you reading backwards. And so what it's saying is on the way this way, you're reading it a USE or a USH. And on the way back, you're reading it as just a plain S. And so it's to USE, to use it, ET, use it. And then on the other way, there's no E or H, so it's SW, to swim it. And so Father says, been nicking it of nut it milk, as used to swim it is, as to swim it is Jim. So the final N is pronounced as a M. It means the seed. but it's the gym, the GYM, JIM. The swimming it gym invites, INVIT. They say it's in-house, but it means invite, to invite, to make welcome. To invite me, itch. And so itch, they give anything with it, the AIH in there, brother. But actually, the words with the IH are more have to do with women. All the women folk would have this in their name with another letter changed around. But it actually, this A is reading with this is over here. This E, so it's a ES. Invite me, itches, IH, and the A is ES, itches. And then they're saying this is a bucker, but that would be with a dot in here. This is a chet, CH. And so it's actually like the S, it's either a H or an E following it. So this is the butcher. The same is up here. Still the milk, but it's then the HAS. The milk has to use it to swim. The swim it is. So it reads like this because, it let us know in that first line it was talking about a 14-year-old boy, in why of age is shame too, when it's easy to shame them. And in the same story, it's talking about how to light your crown chakra. But in the same story, it's also talking about the astrology, how all the astrology goes together. And you see it better if you start reading when that last movie where it's talking about the 7 sons, and it starts explaining this and explaining these ancient marks up here is what it's doing. It's explaining what these mean. And so I'm reading this down here because I'm thinking this is where I found this one here. And so here's another mark that nobody knows of. This looks like a magnifying glass. You'll only see it on the end of the word. It'll be leaning either way. And it means you're dropping an A in there. A or a O, not necessarily the letter, but the sound. And so when you're going to see it, it's because this line reads backwards here again when you get here. And so when you're reading it backwards, you're not seeing it. It's not there. You don't go by all the extra markings. These markings for when you read it the first time. And on the way back, it's just the letters. And so what it's doing is keeping him from having an ES here on the way back. He didn't want the ES. He wanted to read the EA on the way there, but not the ES on the way back. So I believe I got all the marks explained. I'm just going to read here now. When near which Godel in God will be a bess, the able to dig her the new. So a godel, this great wind, a godel is a screw. It's talking about a tornado, And the new mom, rev, RV, to rev over the matter bear, who in goober boo, that's your name that your mama calls your cum rag. Your goober boo open up to nut. The 4 corners, the goober boo open up to nut habit. Who Eiffel all. This is the dot here makes it 2 I's. So the first one is Y, meaning how or who. And then the Eiffel, IFL. That's where your word Eiffel Tower comes from. And it fell. It didn't quite fall, but it's leaning. Who Eiffel all. The mire on inner. A mire, quagmire. He's a very acidic person. And so a mire is a swamp. And them old flowers that quagmire wears on his shirt, that's the ancient symbol for mire. That's an ancient Egyptian symbol for mire. That's what that means. It means acidic. And it's because that flower only grows in a swampy place, in a mire. And mires are acidic. You could tell by the color of the water how acidic it is. It's dark. It's a mire. And the mire on, acidic on, inner is who mutu to amulet from let. Who mutu to amulet from let. Refine, refine any love, diddle, the diddle in guide lek. the diddling guide luck. And so Mutu is the ancient god of breaking in women on their wedding night. You know, an amulet is a protective device that you wear. But the Mutu amulet is you can read about it here under Mutunis to Tunis, and it's not a pretty story. It's kind of hard to believe. It was to keep brides from being embarrassed by sex. But he's saying, that the young boys wear theirs out, and so the girls have to go meet Mutu, to deaden their senses, because the boys done wore theirs out so hard, they'll kill the little girl in her first time. Refine Annie, the roughen Annie, love diddle. A diddle is to screw, but it's also to screw somebody out of something, to rip them off. To diddle, to cheat or swindle. And so the boys, they took their own virginity in their hand, and the girls had to meet Mutu to the amulet from Let, the amulet them from Let, to refine any love diddle in guide luck. In guide luck. So if you read about this history and the history of Rome, the timing just doesn't add up, because this book was written 2,000 years before that. But what's been happening is these priests have been misinterpreting this ever since they got their hands on it. They couldn't read it. They've been misinterpreting it on purpose, maybe so people didn't understand the writings, or maybe because they were just acting the part of being priests and they didn't have a clue how to read this. Maybe many of them didn't even know how to read. You got all these priests, and they're chanting all these satanic prayers, and they don't even know how to read this. They don't even know when to read backwards. They don't even know when letters blend and have a different sound. They're just mouthing the words. They don't have a clue. They don't know what devil they're praying to. Who if Siv vaya the way of the wife refuge, a ratum allow, who jigs to. Jigs is not shave. Jigs is a dance, and to do the jig. Who jigs to, us arose to. Us arose to. This is where your word soros comes from. The head. Us arose to. Who if fell its share, wise it to. And so it's talking about, don't blow all your juice, because that's where your brains come from. That's how you fire up your crown chakra. You got to save your sexual energy. Who yammer, who said armors its city, I-T-S-T-Y, its city. Who armors its city? From bum nut in them. From the bum nut in them. The final N is M, so when you read it this way, MBM from bum, and then it's a NT this way, the nut, and then in them, when it's on the end, it's an M. And all the final letters do something similar to that, same as this final M is a S. From the bum nut in them. And the JAMA warms. The mark has you grab the A, so it's backwards with the A, so it's the JAMMA, the JAMA, your pajamas, the JAMA, and then warms, it's WOR, and then the final M is S, but it's not final here, it's not final to this markup here, so it's WORM, and then S is final. And to the JAMA warms, and then in use of as a shame, that's the name, in use of as a name, a shame. So a name isn't the name you're given, it's the name you're called for what you've done. And you see it in all the ancient writings and the Sumerian tablets. They keep changing their name to the last thing they're done. They would be renamed for it. In use of as a shame. It reads backwards here. They haven't mooey. They haven't the final N, M-U-I. Haven't mooey. Haven't much. Who will fuck? QH. Who will fuck? They always have it taken, you take your wives. Who will fucky hisses? H-I-S-E-S. This isn't name. This is hisses. Final M is a S. The hisses. The hisses you. And then the final E, Y-E-W-U. And then embark. Embark is to get on board. But embark is the opposite of blessed. Vark is pig. Nasty. It's in every language it's in, it's not a good thing. Vark is pain, labor pain. Aardvark coming from the pig. Vark and a pig. Who word armors its city? From bum, nothing them jamma worms. In use of as a shame. They're using their jamma worm for use of a shame. You they haven't much have. They haven't mooey much evil fucky. They shame. You embark. In clit as it Luther hatched. In via, in way of lent in time. Topple the lowly is. So my computer's loading up. It's going to jam up after I get this. But I'm not going to leave y'all hanging. I'm going to go up here and get y'all a clue. I'm going to have to finish this up in one more movie. And I'm going to find them writings that were talking about that symbol I showed you on that astrology map. It's real cool. In fact, it's right here with the edge of the sword. They have kill with the edge of the sword. But this word here, this fell from, the Baba says, shush, shush. Baba Yammer, shush. And he's talking about quieting the mind and trying to shush his dauber. I do. This reads O-D-U. Ado. Ado means to walk with. They say it means to walk with God, but that God just means word, to walk with the word. Ado. Ado would, and then the line, read it backwards, to do as these. Ado, to walk with, would do as these. Matter bear, the R moves over here, the matter bear. Uses, U-Z-E, and then Z again. The uses, Baba says, Baba Yammer. Shush, my Leela, my loft. To shush my loft, the one that rise of my loft in Pleam, P-L-E-E-M, and the final N is an M again. The Pleam, the Pleamum, my missus' shame is whatever bets it some. Of Veneries, what touch less to amulet, from letter fine, any love, diddle in guide luck. And so this word here, this Pleam, P-L-E-E-M, is coming from this word phlegm, a thick, vicious substance secreted in Middle English, phlegm, F-L-E-E-M, clammy moisture of the body. Spelling change in the 16th century is due to association with the Latin and Greek. So I don't know if you caught this or not. You might have to read the whole thing. But yeah, this is probably the best place to start reading the Bible. This is where it all comes from. This is the oldest book. It's at least 400 years older than all the rest of it. And this is the one they were all trying to match to. This is where all the language come from. And it's actually talking about how to fire up your third eye chakra, how to crank up your crown chakra. But it's also talking about the astrology at the same time. And then a lot of the other stuff that matches up with it, I don't know if it was just from over the ages that people trying to understand this and doing the rituals, or if it was all part of the same thing the way he wrote it. But it's just as genius or more than all the other books. This was the start of it. What Tuffle Shiva ought to fess, what Myron inner is, and they have killed with the edge of the sword. And this is the cuckoo, the K-E-W-Q-K-U, the Kukul Piver, P-I-V-R-H, the Kukul Piver Rev, to speed it up. And so a Kukul Piver, before here it was explaining that astrology map I was showing you. And so that's what steered me here. That's how I figured out what this was, because it was talking about the beginning and explaining that map. But a Kukul Piver is a woodpecker. Woodpeckers have their spiritual meaning in all the ancient cultures. Most probably an altered spelling of a French pivert, nickname for a woodpecker. And they were known in ancient times for this strange tongue that wraps all the way around their brain. I guess it's a shock absorber to keep from getting a headache with all that hammering. This was the symbol of the Kukul Piver, and this is where your word circle and kaikel comes from, the Hebrew word for circle. It's where your word kike come from, because they weren't quite reading it right. They read this as a hiku, but it's the key, K-E-W-K-U-L, the kukul, and it's where your word circle come from, the Kukul Piver. And it was this ancient symbol for Mercury here. And so it started talking about Satan in the top here, which is actually a response. But Satan and Saturn, this is the shush, the fire, Saturn. And so it's connected with the three. It's connected with Venus and Mercury. And even on the other side, they all have the three. If you go with this side of it, the flip side of Saturn, and its triplet are still the same, still Venus and Mercury. The X, the Kukul, Mercury and Venus. And then the same with Jupiter over here. Jupiter is split on the two sides of it, but it stays with Mars and the Sun, and the flip side is over here with Mars and the Moon. And so this symbol in the middle is letting you know this is the first. When it says before, BFR, in four, like on the first page of the Bible every day, it talks about before. It means in four. It means in front. And so it begins talking about this. In four is this triplet. And then the second one is here, the triplet of Jupiter. And then you can't tell which the third one is from here, but you automatically know that it goes back to Saturn. And then the fourth one is Jupiter, the green underneath here. And so in the beginning of this chapter, it was talking about this. And first it sends you here. It's talking about these signs. And then it starts talking about the signs here in the red. And then it talks about the Kukul Piver, which is the symbol of Mercury. So my computer's loaded up. It's impossible to edit now. But I'm going to come back to this. All the times I told you that I was going to go back and finish a chapter. I will one day, but I'm definitely probably going to read this entire book first. This is going to help explain where all that language comes from.
Don't forget, hooty hoot, hooty hoot. I won't forget.
Alright, I'm going to cut this off here. Good day.